Gameoverse just dropped its very first pilot episode, and while most people were focused on the chaos happening on screen, the episode was actually hiding a surprising amount of secret details, background clues, and moments that could become extremely important later in the series. From hidden references and visual foreshadowing to scenes that completely change the way you see the story, here are 10 things you probably didn't notice in Gameoverse. The very first thing I want to talk about, because honestly, I can't believe how clean this reference is, has to do with one of the most iconic moments in 80s animation history. If you grew up watching the 1986 Transformers movie, you probably remember the scene where Galvatron shoots Starscream dead, the crown falls to the ground, and Galvatron steps on it with a cold, deliberate stomp that became one of the most talked about moments in that whole film. And now look at what Warwick does at the end of the fight with Snappers in the pilot. After destroying him, Warwick doesn't just walk away, he goes out of his way to crush Snapper's crown under his foot, which is the exact same beat, done the exact same way. That parallel is way too specific to be accidental, and if Glitch is opening the series with a reference that deliberate, it tells you a lot about the kind of show they want to make. But here's something that changes how you understand literally everything else that happens in this pilot, and it's easy to miss because it gets introduced almost like a side note. There's a moment where Kit tells Flappers the truth. If he defeats Snappers and wins the game, his entire world is going to explode.
If you beat Snappers and win the game, this whole world is going to explode!
The second she says it, the world freezes and glitches all at once, everything turns gray, and then after a brief moment, it snaps back to normal like nothing happened. That one scene rewrites a fundamental rule for the entire show. Nobody, not Farcade, not Syntax, can tell the inhabitants of these game worlds what's actually coming, because the world itself shuts down the moment they try. Think about what that means for Kit's mission going forward. She's trying to save people who can never fully understand why they need saving, and she can't warn them properly or explain any of it, so she has to figure out how to protect them without being able to say the one thing that would make any of this make sense, and the show manages to lay all of that out midway through the first episode without ever pausing to spell it out. Okay, this next one is a lot more fun, but don't let that fool you because it might actually be telling us something. There's a moment where Kit uses a device built into her own suit to cycle through a bunch of preset outfits while she's looking for her swimsuit, and most people probably laughed and moved on. But you can notice something worth paying attention to. One of those outfits looks remarkably like a character from Metal Slug, the classic 1996 arcade game, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's where it gets more interesting though. Some of those outfits might not just be random costume gags. If each one is designed to fit a specific type of world, then the variety cycling past could be giving us a quiet preview of the kinds of places Kit is going to visit across the series, from fantasy settings to sci-fi worlds to things that feel way more grounded. It's a throwaway joke of a scene that might be doing double duty as foreshadowing. Early in the episode, you can spot two photos pinned up on Kit's side of the ship, and the camera actually pauses on them for a moment, as if the show wants to make sure you register what you're seeing. Kit is in both of them, surrounded by friends from her original world, and she looks genuinely happy in a way that feels almost jarring compared to who she is throughout this pilot. Since we already know her world was destroyed, those photos hit differently once you make that connection. Whatever happened to her world almost certainly happened to those people too, and the show doesn't need to say a single word about it for the weight to land. Those photos are just sitting there on her wall, and the longer you think about what they represent, the heavier they get. Speaking of her past, the flashbacks Kit experiences throughout the pilot are doing something more specific than just showing sad memories, because they actually paralyze her in the moments when she needs to be most present and focused. There's a clear pattern where these flashes hit right when things demand her full attention, and instead of being able to push through them, she gets pulled back into something she can't control. I think what the show is quietly building here is a character who's trying to function while still being in a kind of internal crisis she hasn't fully processed. She's out here trying to save other worlds while she's still recovering from losing her own, and we're probably going to learn more about exactly what she witnessed when everything fell apart. When we do, a lot of her behavior in this pilot is going to make a lot more sense. Now, I want to talk about Gobbles, because I think there's a real chance this character ends up being one of the most important in the whole series, even if right now he mostly just looks adorable. Gobbles is a Learnosaur, and the name kind of tells you everything you need to know.
Gobbles isn't useless. He is a Learnosaurus, and he is very good at reading and writing.
Whatever he sees, he absorbs and retains. He doesn't just watch something happen and forget it, he internalizes it in a way that stays with him. Think about what that means for a character who's about to travel through dozens of wildly different worlds. Every mechanic, every skill, every kind of behavior he witnesses across all of those places gets added to whatever he's already carrying. He could walk into the later seasons as basically a living record of everything the team has encountered and pull from all of it precisely when it matters most. He starts the pilot as comic relief, but if the writers are being intentional about his ability, he might end up being the most uniquely capable member of this entire team. This connects to something bigger that's already taking shape with the group as a whole. Early in the episode, Caboodle gives Kit grief about picking up what he calls useless game characters, and it's played as a joke at first. He even says directly that they're not there to save anyone, that this is just a side mission Dusk assigned, and Kit shouldn't be collecting strays along the way. And then Flapper's world is destroyed. The game ends, and Kit brings him onto the ship anyway, doing the exact thing Caboodle said she wouldn't do, which means we're probably looking at a pattern that's going to define the whole show. Kit keeps rescuing survivors, Caboodle keeps pushing back on it, and the crew keeps growing episode by episode. What makes that structure work here is that every single person Kit rescues comes from a destroyed world, which means they've all lost something, and that includes Kit herself, which is not nothing as a foundation for this group. But here's the part that's easy to overlook because Warwick says it fast and keeps moving. Near the end of the episode, he explains what Syntax is actually doing and why. They're not destroying worlds for the sake of chaos or because they enjoy it. The float collected from each destroyed world is a resource, and they need enough of it to change the rules of the Gameoverse entirely and recover whatever it is they lost. Though what exactly that is remains deliberately vague. What makes their method genuinely unsettling is that they don't arrive in these worlds as enemies. They go in as allies, they help the heroes, they make them believe they have a real fighting chance, and then the world ending is always the point because it was going to happen regardless. The heroes of each world are essentially being used as instruments by the exact people who appear to be supporting them, and that's going to cast a long shadow over every episode from here on, because anytime someone shows up offering help, you're going to wonder which side they're actually working for. Which brings me to Dusk, who is easily the most mysterious character in the pilot and gets the least amount of screen time. He appears only briefly at the start, but what we do learn is already enough to keep you thinking long after the episode ends. He's the one who saved Kit and Caboodle when their world was destroyed, and the one assigning their missions now, running Farcade, the team working to protect worlds from the same fate. And despite all of that, he looks deeply unsettling, with these long, elf-like ears and a general presence that doesn't read as warm, even when he's technically the good guy. Here's the thing that keeps coming back to me. Among Kit's worst nightmares, among the most painful images from her world ending, one of the recurring moments is her kneeling on the ground, completely defeated, and taking Dusk's hand. Of all the things to loop back to in a nightmare, that's the specific image that stays. Whether it means he found her in the worst moment of her life, or whether his help came with something she's still carrying in a way she hasn't made peace with, I genuinely don't know. But the show very clearly wants you to keep asking that question. And the last thing, which is less about theory and more about something the show did that I think deserves to be acknowledged, is the tribute that appears at the very end of the episode. Glitch dedicated this pilot to Monty Oum, the animator and creator of RWBY for Rooster Teeth, who passed away at just 33 years old and left behind an influence on web animation that's hard to fully overstate given how short his career was. For Glitch to open Gameoverse by honoring him says something about how they understand their place in the lineage of independent animation. And it was a quiet moment that a lot of people probably scrolled past without stopping on it. But it felt like exactly the right way to close out a first episode. That's everything I found hiding in the Gameoverse pilot, and honestly, for a first episode, there's a ridiculous amount going on just below the surface. If this video caught something you had missed, or if you spotted something I didn't mention, drop it in the comments because I genuinely want to know what the community is picking up on. And if you want to keep following Gameoverse as the series goes on, subscribing is the easiest way to make sure you don't miss what's coming next. See you in the next one.